Welcome to the Stone and Star Art Studio. Today we will be painting a tropical beach scene. These are the colors you'll need. Today we are doing our first tropical beach, and this is what we will be painting. Isn't it lovely? Beautiful vacation. So in this one, and I've talked about this before, our horizon line is usually where I like to start. It kind of sets up the basis for everything. So we want our horizon line to be either a little bit above or a little bit below the actual center. So this one, it looks like it's a little bit below center, but I'm gonna move it up just a little bit because the ocean's kind of our focus here, and it's just really beautiful. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to start our horizon. So just a little bit above center. And just take your pencil and pull it across. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, just kind of eyeball it as best you can, because the real horizon isn't perfectly straight either, so that's okay. So once you have your horizon line set up, we're going to add in our beach line. So it kind of curves off into the distance, and then it comes back in, and then it kind of slowly fades. So whenever we get to this section right here, try not to use too much of the graphite because it'll mix in with our white and our blue, and we don't want it to be gray right here. So just kind of lightly do this section, but you know, we're gonna take our line kind of like this. Okay, so and to notice from the horizon, it's about 1/3 of the way across from the right side. So that's where you'll want to start. Let's see if I can kind of put this right here. Maybe you can see it. So about 1/3. So we want to keep this line pretty horizontal. It's kind of confusing in a way because we know it's coming towards us, so we want to kind of draw it straight towards us, but really it's working its way kind of like a snake. And nice and light. Our water line, where it'll be a little bit darker, kind of a touch of tan or brown, will be right here. And then where our water mixes with our beach, it'll be kind of a mix of tan/white plus a little bit of blue. And then we'll slowly get to true blue. So our true blue, I'm just doing this for reference, so you don't have to add in this line if you don't want to, but I just kind of like to have it whenever I'm painting later. I'm going to use kind of this line as a reference for when we should really be blue. So that'll start kind of in the middle here, and it'll come across to about here. Just kind of move nice and sideways. And then I'm going to do one more line up by the horizon. This is when we get to our really darker blue. And these are just personal reference lines for myself. Whenever you're painting, you can add in as many or as few as you like. Okay, so now we're gonna look at our beach line. I'll pull this up so you can see a little bit closer. So we've got these big fluffy bushes, and then we've got the palm trees coming out of them. So we're gonna think of those as two separate sections. So first we're gonna do our fluffy bushes because they're on top. And so they start just a little bit back. And remember, we don't want them starting on the horizon line because that would mean that they're super, super far away, but they're not that far away. So really they're gonna start, you know, down here overlapping that horizon line. Kind of like that. And they're kind of in like these big round sections, kind of like a, what, like a gumdrop kind of, sort of, like those candies. Yeah, kind of shaped like that. And these don't have to be perfect. We want to cover the horizon line completely. Looks like there's another section right here that kind of pops up on top, like that. And then it just kind of, and there's kind of no really wrong way to do this as long as we utilize our texture. So we'll want to use a lot of texture in this section. And I'm going to go back and erase my horizon line through there. So we've got our little towers, our little gumdrops over here. And then we'll want our palm trees. And for our palm trees, We don't really need to do a bunch of sketching because we want the blue of the clouds to kind of show through those leaves, and we're not gonna leave a lot of this blank. But so these lines I'm gonna do are gonna kind of more be for our reference right now because we're gonna cover them up when we do the sky in a minute. But just so you can kind of see how they're gonna look. So like I definitely want these two trees, those two right there, because they have a lot of personality. And I like this big one right here. Kind of about like that. It's the tallest one. And this one's a good one. And if you don't like having a ton of trees, you can cut out as many as you want. If you want a bunch of trees, go for it, add in some more, do whatever you want to do. There we go. So that's kind of how it's going to look. We'll have those trees and then we can do some background ones if we want. And then maybe there's even one coming off the page. Okay, so we kind of have our painting sort of set up. Now this next line I'm going to do is going to, again, be just for our reference for right now. So the order of the way we're going to do things is we're going to paint the sky, and then while that's drying, we're going to do our beach. So that'll be mostly one color, which is easy. And then we're going to mix that color with our blue and kind of blend it through this section. And then we'll blend this blue and get darker and darker and darker till we get to the horizon. And by that point, our sky should be dry, I hope. If not, then we'll move on to the trees. But if it's dry, then we'll kind of take our pure blue and some white and kind of make some fluffy sections through here. So for these fluffy sections, we've got one big chunk at the bottom, and then we've got some other little chunks. And I'll kind of condense it so that it's easier to draw. This is kind of random. You can do your clouds however you want, of course. I'm all about independence. Do whatever you want to do. All right, so our main section for our clouds is gonna kind of be shaped like this. And then everything else will kind of be floating on top of that section. So you can just kind of lightly sketch it out if you want. Don't use too much graphite because we will go over this with white. So we don't want that gray to show through where we don't want it. But kind of play with it, maybe see what shapes you would like. And if you have a phone nearby or want to draw that out on a piece of paper so that you remember what shape you like, you're welcome to do that too. So this is kind of the shape I'll probably use. And it's very light, it's probably not very easy to see. So it's like a chunk here, a chunk here, a little chunk, bit up here, and then it kind of just gets smaller as it gets to the horizon. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're going to use, I'm using palette paper, so that's what this is because my palette's all messy, so I want you guys to be able to see what colors I'm using pretty easily. So what we're gonna use is we're gonna need a little bit of white and a little bit of our pure blue. So what I mean by pure blue is just like primary blue. So like not green blue, not purple blue, just, you know, blue. And we're going to want to start out with like kind of a soft whitish blue. I'll see if I can get a good color for you guys to see. And then we'll get darker as we get towards the top. So I'm just gonna take my blue and kind of add in some white until I get it where I want it. And don't worry too much about getting the horizon line perfectly straight, like it literally doesn't matter. Just try to keep where you can kind of see where your line was and cover all the way up to the horizon so that we'll layer over later with the ocean. So that ocean will cover up everything because we don't want to have to keep raising our ocean to cover any gaps. And we're going to cover up our palm trees. So just try to leave those lumps, our little gumdrop lumps. And you could leave your clouds blank if you want to. I think I will. I think it'll probably be easier, huh? Let's do it that way. So this very light blue, it's almost like a nice periwinkle, is only gonna go close to the horizon down here. And then if you need to move in with a smaller brush around your gumdrops, you're welcome to do that. Do whatever you need to do. I'm just kind of lightly tapping it and trying to leave the general shape. Okay. Okay, so for our beach, we are going to start off with a base of white, and then we are going to very carefully add in kind of, you could call it a toner. So if you want your beach to be like a peachy color, you could add a teeny tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of, well, probably not yellow, maybe a tiny bit of brown and a tiny bit of red. Or if you want it to just be a tan beach, add a tiny bit of brown. I don't recommend going with straight white just because it doesn't look realistic. Definitely white and brown is kind of a good way to start. So that is what I'm going to use. So here's my white, here's my brown. You can always add more, but you cannot take it out. So start with a tiny bit. Okay, let's get started. So take your nice beachy tan color, and I'm gonna start up by the horizon because that spot, that can dry, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna do any blending up here. I'm just gonna get a little bit of a darker section for that water line. I'm also gonna add it around the trees because trees have shadows, right? So let's do the trees first. So I'm gonna just do it right along there, and there's barely a difference. It just gives it a little bit of depth, a little bit of realism, which we like. Then I'm gonna kind of do it a little bit in the distance. And then even do just a little bit throughout just to kind of make it less flat. So you're welcome to do that or not if it stresses you out. Okay, and then I'm going to take that color and then I'm going to fill in that water line. And you don't really want to blend too much with this. I mean, it should be kind of, not a hard line, but sort of clear where they separate. I'll show you the picture again. So right here is where we are. So this is our actual water line where the water really starts turning blue. So I'm just gonna take our tan color and start adding in our teal, which is, you know, a mix of blue and green. And then gonna have less and less of the tan color until we get to completely teal right here and then to blue. So that's all we're doing. Really all we're doing is just blending with intention, that's all. And I'm gonna kind of blend it in with that brown color. So whenever we're painting this, whenever we're doing the blending, it's kind of like when we did the sky. We want our color to go left and right. Even though this line right now is pretty vertical, really, you know, the world is, you know, not completely flat, but somewhat flat. So it's going to go horizontally. And you'll see that more as we keep going. And feel free, if you feel like it's not blending super well, like I feel like I could do better at blending it, you can go back a color and add those together. Okay, so we're getting kind of a nice blend here. That's nice. Okay, it's looking great. It's looking like a beach. I'm very happy with it. Okay, I'm going to take the teal and I'm just going to add in a little bit of this primary blue. Have a sky, we have a beach. How great is that? I'm feeling pretty good about it. Okay, how's everybody doing? Want some more time with your water?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, no hurry. You know, I just go at my own pace. And I can see some of you guys working, so I'll keep watching. So it's gonna be blue, white, and Mars black. So I'm just gonna add a teensy tiny little bit. Yeah, that looks nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do what I just did, which you want to take your base gray, that lightest gray that you had, and add a little bit of water to it. We want to get it nice and watery. Mix, you know, just a little section. You don't need that much. Just mix it up so that it doesn't have any lumps in it. And then when your brush has some on it, I'll give you guys a second to catch up. So that original gray you had for your clouds, that lightest gray you had, add a little bit of water to it. Get it nice and thin and mixed completely just in one little spot. We don't need it a whole lot. We just want it nice and thin. And then kind of get just a little bit on your brush. So what we want is our brush to be almost dry with just a tiny bit of very thin paint, because we want to create these nice kind of smoky clouds in the background. So I'm adding water to my white because, you know, I left my jug open, so it's kind of sticky. So I just want to make it so it's not horribly sticky. And then we're going to add just a little bit to the kind of the top right section. Okay, it is time for us to get set up for our last section of the canvas that does not have any paint, which is our lovely little fluffy trees. So the paint colors you will need for this, you'll need some form of brown. I have burnt umber, that's just what I happen to have. And you'll need some green, some yellow, and probably maybe a little bit of white. Oh, also Mars black, because we're going to use gray for the trunks of the trees. So we use these colors. And let's see. So what we're gonna do first is we'll start off with our bushes. We'll get like a good, not a forest green, lighter than a forest green, but not quite a lime green. So we want a mixture of green and yellow, maybe a little bit of brown so that it doesn't come off too vivid. And that'll be our starting point for our green. So mix a pretty good amount of this because we'll go darker with it in a bit. We'll add some brown and then we'll go lighter with it by adding some yellow and maybe some white later to kind of give it that fluffy appearance. So green and yellow. And I'll start a new palette and let you see me mix it. And I'm gonna kind of use green as the base, and I'll use a bit of yellow, not quite as much yellow. And I'm gonna switch to a slightly larger brush. Yellow and green, here we go. Okay. This is a pretty good starter color. It's not quite lime green, but it's not a dark forest green. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of brown, just so it's a little bit strong for me. I want it to look a little bit more natural. And just a little bit. Okay, So at this point, you need to memorize your gumdrop mountains, because we will need our little gumdrop mountains later, and try to think of them as 3D things. And remember, our sun is like up here somewhere. So our darker areas are going to be where they meet and going to be on the underside and kind of the back side here too. So this whole bottom right C section, that's where it's going to be the darkest. But first we'll just start coloring the entire thing. And where's my reference photo? Okay, so if we take a look at our reference photo again, so like I said, the bottom right kind of C shape, that's where it's going to be the darkest. So we're going to start off with our darkest. So we'll add a little bit of green and a little bit of brown to get a dark color for these shaded spots. And don't worry too much if you accidentally go over, you know, the next gumdrop. We'll go over all of it with a lighter color later. So add a bit of brown, a bit of green, until it has a nice amount of contrast. And then this is where we'll start adding in just a little bit of texture. Just try not to make anything too much of a hard edge. Okay. And then I'm going to take it one shade darker for those really dark spots. And I'm going to make it more brown than green. So wherever you have spots where the blue kind of made a new layer on top of, you know, for our water, like right in here along the water line, you can add in a bit of white if you want, right along there to show our little bubbles and things. So this is where you kind of need to try to remember where your palm trees were and where you want your palm trees to be. So we want to start with the ones that are in the farthest back. And if you're not doing a ton of palm trees like this one, you don't have to really worry about it quite so much. But like with this one, I'm going to start way back here with some palm trees and back here where there's kind of a large section of them, and kind of work my way this way. So I'm just gonna make kind of some fluffy patterns using the kind of the brownish one that we've made, and I'm gonna add a little bit of black and white to it to kind of give it more of a gray, because if you notice in the picture, the bushes are this really kind of vivid green, but then the palm trees are kind of a softer grayer color. So that's what I'm gonna do. this is where you have to get really brave and draw your trees. So I like to start at the top. You want to start right where the coconuts would be, I guess, if these were coconut trees. I don't know, they might be palm trees, might be coconut trees, who knows. Use your thinnest brush that you have. I'm using the same one because I like it. And I'm gonna make it nice and flat. And I'm just gonna start with this one right at the tippy top and then work my way down into the bushes. So you don't want to stop at the top of the bushes because then all of your trees are really far in the distance and that's kind of weird. So kind of let them stop at varying spots in the bushes. The painting, my painting, is complete and I'm very happy with how it looks. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I'm so glad you guys came, and I will be taking this and turning it into a video, and once I have it up, I'll email all of you and let you know. And then as we get closer to our next session, I will email you the links just like I did this time. And I hope you guys got something out of it, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Thanks for watching.